Hello all, today I'm going to show you how to import a mushroom model of a city into 3ds Max as well as a building, and then export both out into Cesium Ion. So for you, those of you who are not familiar with Cesium Ion, it is an online platform for creating tiles, optimizing and hosting 3D data on a cloud, and it allows users to download these sorts of things and create starter sets across different programs. So to begin, what we need to do is you need to make sure you download the Cesium Ion plugin from the Autodesk App Store. So because I've already got it installed on the system, we won't need to do that. So what I'll do is I'll post a link down the bottom, and it's just a matter of selecting which version, and the version depending on which operating system you've got and the language. So to begin, with that being said, we'll begin with importing our mesh from photogrammetry programs such as Meshroom. So with 3ds Max open, as you can see, I pretty much got a blank screen. So first of all, we need to import the mesh. So we go click on File, select Import, and then under whatever directory your Meshroom cache is. So for example, what it does is, so when you generate the mesh, you pre-allocate a spot for it to save. So for example, I've got it here in my week 1 folder next to my photogrammetry pictures, as you can see. So I've done two sets of shots, so one being at 0 degree and another at 60 degrees. And then from there, I've pretty much, so once it's all been generated, it pretty much exports out into the catch folder. So once in the catch folder, it's got the different steps, as you can see, from Meshroom. And then so for us, being the last process, naturally our output file should be in texturing under the latest, and all these different folders here are pretty much just pretty much different iterations of different. So for example, if you have to recompute your model, that would be different. Each of these folders will correspond to each attempt. So with the latest attempt, it would be up the top here. So click on that, and then we select our file. And then once we select the file, it brings up the OBJ import options. So we need to make sure the following options are selected. So retriangulate meshes, retriangulate polygons selected, and then our texture coordinates is also selected, and then flip ZY axis, and then the normals being import from file, we make sure that's selected, as well as unique wire color and physical material, and the show maps in viewport, as well as the import into map editor. So make sure all of those are selected. Once selected, and then once selected, click on import. So with that, so once our folder or our mesh is brought into the 3ds Max space, all we've got to do is just adjust it accordingly, because as you can see, we're basically viewing it from the bottom at the moment. So using the select and rotate tool, we just rotate it, and then we sort of we don't have to get it roughly to just as long as it's sort of flat in respect to the Cartesian grid, the 3ds Max coordinate grid. That's all we need to do. So we need to do that. Make sure that you can pan around by clicking either the arrow buttons on your gizmo. Yes, I think that's fine. And then we just drag it down to, let's see. Also, what we want to do is we might scale it up a bit. As you can see. So yeah, I think that is pretty much ready. And also another good tip is to make sure that your viewport is set to high quality. Otherwise if you have it in standard mode, your textures, your mesh textures won't be as, you'll have mesh textures that will be less than desirable. So it's advisable to have it in the high quality mode. So with that being said, and that being imported, just pretty much importing it, we don't have to do any. So if you want to edit the mesh underneath, like if you want to trim it, you can try and do that. And I might do that anyway by selecting edit poly. Just edit, so we select edit mesh. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do it again. So we click on the mesh, and as you can see, we've already got an editable mesh modifier generated. So, and then using the element tool, actually, and using the polygon tool, I just select the area that I want to delete, and there we go. It's just a matter of deleting it. So it's polygon, edit mesh, and then polygon, and then we just select over what we want to delete. So with that, I think we're pretty much ready to import our model now. So what we'll be importing is the tower that I've made in 3ds Max, I think, about skyscrapers. So to sort of go on the eastern precinct of, or proposed eastern precinct of Federation Square, directly opposite, but sort of sandwiched over the, located over the rail yards and sandwiched in between Flinders Street and Birrarung Ma. So to do that, we'll go into import. Actually, no, we go into reference, sorry, and then XREF objects. And then what we do is we create an, so when the XREF objects, so the purpose of the I'll just make sure I bring it off the screen. So the purpose of the XREF file, XREF objects option, is to have the objects imported into 3ds Max without having to directly copy and paste every particular element. So basically they'll be running off the original file, and that is good if you don't, if the file's based off a huge, if the file is pretty much is oversized and you don't want to risk crashing it. So to start we click on this icon here, which is to create an XREF record from file, and then we select our object, our building, and then once it's in highlighted, we right click on it, and then we click on merge in scene to make sure to merge in scene. I'll make sure it's sort of, as you can see, I've sort of got it there. So once that's done, we can open up our layers and then add it to its own, merge it into its own layer, and then sort of join it together. So what we'll do is we just merge our building, because as you can see, the building's made up of 3 layers, being the actual sort of reference. So we've got our basic shape with our hole, and then we've got our top part there, our skin, which is the zigzaggy part, and then we've got our internal part, which contains the stairs, the different ramp, or the internal bridges. So what we'll do is we merge those two together. I'll at least hide them in. Change the scale to make them at least. Whoops. Be with me while I get it aligned. Sometimes it doesn't want to align properly, so yep. Yep, so that's done. Make sure what we can do is I can make sure we can turn our. Yep, so as reiterating on the different layers, so we've got one layer which is our external skin, second layer which is one layer which is our bridges, the other layer which makes up the mess of the tower, and then the third layer which is our skin. So once that's all in, all we got to do now is just trim this off. So we'll go into our edit poly. We go into edit poly. We go above edit poly, so because the lattice was the last thing we did, so what we'll do is we'll go into, we add an edit poly, so just simply adding an edit poly modifier and then clicking on element. And then highlighting the areas we want to delete, we just highlight until it appears in red and then we delete. So that is useful if you've got any artifacts that you want to delete. So, yep. What we'll need to do now is we'll also, so that's all done, we'll make sure our layers are grouped. Yep, so collapse. Or we'll group them, just Control G. Yep. So to group them, we just go group and then group. And select group, and then we do building complete. And then, yeah, it's pretty much ready to go. So all we got to do now is just plonk it onto the space. And then scale it down according to, so what we want to do is we need to, using our scale gizmo, we just select the middle there and then we scale the overall size down. And make sure is it aligned. Nah. Make sure it's over sort of Flinders Street neat. Still a bit too big. Yep. There we go. And then we don't have to roughly have it exact, as long as it's high, sort of within, actually I might move it across a bit so it won't block 101 Collins Street. So yeah. Once it's in, so it's pretty much in now. So all we're going to do is just send it across to Cesium Ion. And then to do that, we've got to select file. Make sure once we've made, so make sure as per earlier on that you install the plugin. And then we do select file, export, and then we select export to Cesium Ion, and it will bring up the exporter. And this will be automatically linked to the Cesium Ion web page or your Cesium Ion account, which you've got, which you've got to sign up for which you can sign up for free. So what we'll do is we'll type demo, Thread Squared East Tower demo. Max and from Mushroom. So Google Earth/Mushroom. And then we just type an attribution in. And so our attribution is me and Google Maps. And then we just make sure it's set as a 3D model. And then we just click upload to Cesium Ion. So it will take a while, as you can see on the screen. So what we'll do is I will pause the video and we'll resume in 5 minutes. So once our building, our mesh and building have been uploaded via the Cesium Ion plugin to the website, it should display here with an ID, name, date, and type, as well as sort of a view preview on the side here. So unfortunately, the model that I was just working on decided not to upload. It was taking a long time to upload, so I've got a previous example. So as you can see, we've got the complete building here, the complete model at high resolution. As you can see, with the building located over Flinders Street rail yards. And then once we're in there, I can sort of edit the building use it as a tile set, as part of a tile set, by clicking on open complete code, which will bring up Cesium Sandcastle. And this is the editor that you can use to edit the code, thus preparing it. And then you can also sort of download use different showcases. So for us, we can do whoops. So what we've got here is we've got our globe, and our building seems to be lost, so we can go back. Actually, I'll just go back. Yeah, so this is to sort of generate different to sort of get the, so this is to use to generate different codes, like if you want to generate different tile sets for different map systems. So different map overlays. So for instance, if you want to do like a hypothetical Google Earth, this would be the way to do it. So with that being said, our building has been entered, our building's in, and then we've pretty much got just different examples down the bottom there. So, and that is pretty much it. Thank you for watching.